When solving rational equations, there's two key points that you need to know. If there's a single fraction on both sides of the equal sign, then cross multiply and solve. And the other way is that if there are multiple fractions on either side of the equal sign, combine the two together, or three, then multiply and solve. Let's look at an example of the first way. This is an example when we have just one fraction on either side. So we're going to cross multiply and then solve for x. Now when you cross multiply, now that we have a polynomial in the denominator, then just know that you need parentheses because you're going to have to distribute. So we have negative 6 times x minus 3 equal to 5 times x plus 2. So that our next line is going to be negative 6x plus 18 equal to 5x plus 10. After combining like terms on either side, I get negative 11x equals negative 8. So therefore x equals 8 over 11. And you can check your answer by plugging it in for x on either side, and then both sides should be equal to one another. Alright, so this is an example where we have multiple fractions. We have 2 on that left side of the equal sign. So the first thing I'm going to do is the same concept that we were working with before in class with adding and subtracting polynomials. So keep in mind that you are going to multiply both fractions by two different things, because our lowest common denominator here is going to be x times x plus 2. So this left one, 2 over x, gets multiplied by x plus 2 on the top and the bottom. And then the one over here just gets multiplied by x over x. So when I simplify and add, I have 2x plus 4 plus x over that least common denominator, which is going to be x, and then x plus 2. And I'm just going to leave it in factored form for now. Okay, so now I'm going to simplify that numerator, and I will distribute that x times x plus 2 in the denominator, just so that when we cross multiply, like in our first example, we don't have to double distribute the x and a constant, or I'm sorry, yeah, a constant. So I'm going to get 3x plus 4 over x squared plus 2x, and it's equal to 1 over 4. And now we have a problem that's set up just like our very first one, and we're going to distribute, cross multiply and distribute the 4 and the 1. Alright, so I'm going to erase the top here so that we can see our next step. Alright, so it would be 4 times 3x plus 4 equal to 1 times x squared plus 2x. Now I'm going to distribute and get 12x plus 16 and set it and it's equal to x squared plus 2x. Now go back to our quadratic unit. This is a quadratic. So to solve this quadratic, we need to pull everything on one side and set it equal to 0. And what we need to do is take this binomial and take it over, because we don't want x squared to be negative. Alright, so that would be 0 equals x squared minus 10x minus 16. So at this point we're just solving a quadratic. You're going to ask yourself if you can factor, which in this case we cannot, so we're just going to use the quadratic formula. So when I do the quadratic formula, I get 10 plus or minus the square root of 10 squared, which is 100, minus 4 times 1 times negative 16, all over 2a. But since a is 1, it's all over 2. So I'm going to simplify this and get 10 plus or minus, it's the square root of 164, which can be simplified into 4 times 41. So I'm going to pull out the 4 and make it a 2. And then my final answer is going to be, in the simplified version, 5 plus or minus the square root of 41. This is acceptable, or if you would like to give me the decimal form to 2 or 3 decimal places, that's fine as well. Alright, this is our last example. Okay, so the biggest thing is that our denominator is x squared minus 16, which we know we can factor into x plus 4 and x minus 4. And then if you see right here, we have an x minus 4. Now, some of us did this the other day in class, and it wasn't quite right. So you cannot divide out that x minus 4 on top because of this plus sign, okay? That 4 that's on the left would also have to have a term x minus 4 for us to then factor x minus 4 out and then be able to simplify. But you're going to see that we don't need to do that. So the first step I'm going to do is actually distribute this 5 and add the 4. And I'm going to get 5x minus 16 over x squared minus 16, and then x plus 4 over x squared minus 16. Now that we have one fraction on either side, we're going to cross multiply, and I'm going to get 5x minus 16 times x squared minus 16 equal to x plus 4 times x squared minus 16. Now, since we have two terms on the left and the right that are equal, we can just cross these out. They would have simplified out eventually, but since two things are equal on one side, we can get rid of it now. So instead of distributing and creating a cubic on the left and the right side, now we just have a linear problem, 5x minus 16 equals x plus 4. Just because we canceled out those x squared minus 16s. So when you solve, you're going to get 4x equal 20, and then x is going to equal 5.